A massive alien ship appeared in the sky, hovering silently above Earth. It was enormous, its surface shimmering like liquid metal under the sunlight. The beings inside, called the Veil, were unlike anything humans had ever imagined. Their skin was thin and almost see-through, glowing faintly with soft colors that shifted depending on their mood. They had long limbs and large black eyes that seemed to take in everything around them. These aliens were explorers, scientists who traveled across galaxies to study other life forms. The Veil had picked up strange signals from Earth, radio waves, television broadcasts, and even old war footage. What caught their attention wasn't just the technology, but the behavior of the creatures living there. Humans, as they called themselves, showed something unusual, an unmatched level of aggression combined with incredible creativity and teamwork. In one recording, they saw armies clashing. In another, they watched families laughing together. This mix of violence and kindness puzzled the Veil. How could such small, fragile beings be both destructive and caring? Curious, the Veil decided to visit Earth. Instead of landing in a big city or near important landmarks, they chose a quiet place, a small town named Pine Ridge in Montana. Surrounded by dense forests and rolling hills, it seemed perfect for observing humans without drawing too much attention. The Veil sent a small team down to the surface, cloaked in invisibility shields so advanced no human eye could detect them. In Pine Ridge, life went on as usual. People woke up early, worked hard, and enjoyed simple pleasures like fishing, hiking, or chatting over coffee at the local diner. Among these residents were two individuals who would soon find themselves at the center of something extraordinary. One was Ryan Carter, a tall man in his mid-30s with short brown hair and a weathered face. Ryan used to be a soldier, but he now spent his days fixing cars at the town's only garage. He wasn't much of a talker, preferring solitude over crowds, though everyone respected him because of his calm demeanor and strength. The other person was Claire Bennett, a young woman with curly blonde hair and bright green eyes. She worked as a wildlife biologist, spending most of her time studying animals in the nearby woods. Claire loved nature and understood how ecosystems functioned. She often joked that she got along better with wolves than people. Still, she cared deeply about her community and always tried to help when needed. Unaware of the invisible observers watching them, Ryan and Claire went about their routines. Ryan tinkered with engines, while Claire set up cameras to track animal movements in the forest. Neither noticed the slight changes happening around them. The way birds suddenly stopped singing, or how shadows flickered oddly in the corners of their vision. The Veil, careful not to reveal themselves, began gathering information. They scanned human minds, analyzed body language, and studied interactions between townsfolk. At first, the Veil found humans fascinating. They saw how quickly emotions shifted, from joy to anger, sadness to excitement, and marveled at how these feelings drove actions. But they also sensed danger lurking beneath the surface. Even in this peaceful town, there were hints of conflict. Arguments broke out at the bar. Kids teased each other at school, and some adults muttered about politics or money troubles. To the Veil, it all pointed to one conclusion: humans were unpredictable, and unpredictability made them dangerous. As days passed, the Veil grew bolder, inching closer to their subjects. They wanted to understand more, not just what humans did, but why they did it. Little did they know, their presence wouldn't remain hidden forever. Something in Pine Ridge was about to change, and Ryan and Claire would play key roles in uncovering the truth. The Veil continued their observations, fascinated by the complexity of human life in Pine Ridge. They noticed how the townspeople went about their days with a mix of routine and unpredictability. At the diner, conversations ranged from friendly jokes to heated debates over local issues. Children played games in the park, laughing one moment and arguing the next. Even Ryan Carter, who seemed calm and reserved, had moments when his jaw tightened or his hands clenched, as if holding back strong emotions. The aliens couldn't decide whether humans were more dangerous because of their aggression or more admirable because of their ability to cooperate. Claire Bennett spent most of her time in the forest, tracking animals and setting up cameras to monitor their behavior. She loved the quiet solitude of the woods, where she could listen to the rustling leaves and birdsong. But lately, something felt off. The wolves she studied, a pack of 5, had started acting strangely. Normally cautious and territorial, they now fled at the slightest sound, disappearing into the trees without warning. One morning, Claire found claw marks on a tree that didn't belong to any animal she recognized. The grooves were deep and jagged, unlike anything she'd seen before. Meanwhile, Ryan began noticing odd things too. His dog, Max, usually eager to chase squirrels during their evening walks, refused to go near certain parts of the forest. The dog growled low in his throat, his fur standing on end, as if sensing an unseen threat. Ryan tried to brush it off, telling himself it was probably just a bear or some other wild animal. But deep down, he knew this feeling was different. It wasn't fear. It was something sharper, like instinct screaming at him to pay attention. One night, the power went out across Pine Ridge. Streetlights flickered and died, plunging the town into darkness. People grumbled about faulty transformers, but Ryan wasn't so sure. He grabbed a flashlight and stepped outside, scanning the horizon. The stars above looked normal, but the air felt heavier somehow, charged with an energy he couldn't explain. As he stood there, he thought he saw movement in the distance, a shadow shifting between the trees. When he called out, there was no response, only silence. Claire also experienced strange occurrences. Her research equipment, which had been working perfectly for weeks, suddenly malfunctioned. Cameras recorded static instead of clear images, and audio devices picked up eerie noises, low hums and clicks that didn't match any known wildlife sounds. Frustrated, she hiked deeper into the woods to check the setup herself. That's when she spotted it. A faint distortion in the air, like heat waves rising from asphalt on a summer day. Whatever it was, it moved silently, gliding through the forest without disturbing a single branch. Back in town, rumors spread quickly. Some people claimed they'd heard growls in the night or seen glowing lights hovering over the hills. Others dismissed it as paranoia, blaming stress or overactive imaginations. Still, tensions rose, and a few families decided to leave Pine Ridge altogether. Ryan, however, stayed put. Something about the situation gnawed at him, urging him to dig deeper. He started asking questions around town, piecing together bits of information from neighbors who'd noticed similar oddities. Eventually, Ryan's path crossed with Claire's. Both were frustrated and confused, trying to make sense of what was happening. When Ryan mentioned the strange shadow he'd seen, Claire nodded eagerly. "I've been seeing weird stuff too," she said. "Something's out there, and I don't think it's natural." For the first time, they realized they weren't alone in their suspicions. Together, they decided to investigate further. Armed with flashlights, notebooks, and determination, they ventured into the forest after sunset. The woods were eerily quiet, the usual chirps of insects replaced by an oppressive stillness. As they walked, Claire pointed out more signs of disturbance: broken branches, flattened grass, and those mysterious claw marks on trees. Then, just as they were about to turn back, they caught sight of it again, the shimmering distortion, hovering near a cluster of rocks. Ryan raised his flashlight, its beam cutting through the darkness. For a brief second, the distortion flickered, revealing a shape, not quite solid, not quite alive. It hovered for a moment longer before vanishing completely. Ryan and Claire exchanged stunned looks. Whatever it wasn't human, and it knew they were watching. The Veil had seen enough. Their initial observations of Pine Ridge revealed much about human behavior, but they wanted to push further. They decided it was time to test humanity's limits. Using their advanced technology, the aliens began creating disturbances designed to provoke reactions from the townspeople. At first, the changes were subtle, power outages that lasted just long enough to frustrate, strange noises in the woods that kept people awake at night, and livestock disappearing without a trace. The goal was simple: create unease and see how humans responded. Ryan noticed the pattern quickly. After the third consecutive night of hearing unsettling sounds outside his house, he grew suspicious. Max barked wildly, pacing back and forth near the door as if trying to warn him of something. Ryan grabbed his rifle, more out of habit than fear, and stepped onto the porch. The air felt thick, almost suffocating, and the usual chirping of crickets was eerily absent. He scanned the darkness but saw nothing unusual. Still, the feeling of being watched lingered. Claire, too, found herself dealing with bizarre events. Her cameras, once reliable tools for tracking wildlife, now captured distorted images, blurry shapes moving through the trees, glowing eyes that blinked out before she could get a clear look. One morning, she discovered one of her trail cameras completely destroyed, its lens shattered and wires torn apart. Whatever had done, this wasn't an animal, it was deliberate. As the days passed, tensions in Pine Ridge escalated. Neighbors who had always been friendly started snapping at each other over minor issues. Some families packed up and left town altogether, convinced something sinister was happening. Others stayed behind, arming themselves with rifles and shotguns, determined to protect what was theirs. The Vale watched all of this unfold with great interest, noting how quickly fear spread among humans and how easily it turned them against one another. One evening, Ryan confronted Claire about the strange happenings. "You've seen it too, haven't you?" he asked bluntly. "Something's messing with us. This isn't random." Claire hesitated at first, unsure whether to trust him fully, but eventually nodded. "I don't know what it is," she admitted, "but it's not natural. And it's getting worse." Determined to uncover the truth, they teamed up to investigate. Armed with flashlights, notebooks, and Ryan's rifle, they ventured into the forest after dark. The deeper they went, the stranger things became. Trees seemed to loom taller than usual, their shadows twisting unnaturally in the dim light. Every step felt heavier, as though the ground itself resisted their presence. Then, without warning, the temperature dropped sharply and a low hum filled the air, a sound neither of them recognized. Suddenly, the forest came alive with movement. Shadows darted between the trees, too fast to follow. Strange noises echoed around them, growls, clicks, and whispers that sent chills down their spines. Ryan raised his flashlight, its beam cutting through the darkness. For a brief moment, they caught sight of something impossible, a massive hulking figure with glowing red eyes and jagged limbs. It wasn't solid. It flickered like a mirage, but it was unmistakably watching them. Claire gasped, clutching Ryan's arm. What is that?" she stammered. Ryan tightened his grip on the rifle, though he doubted it would do much good against something so alien. Before they could react further, the creature vanished, leaving only silence behind. Back in town, the encounter left both of them shaken but resolute. They knew they couldn't ignore what they'd seen. Gathering a few trusted neighbors, they shared their story, urging everyone to stay calm and work together. But not everyone listened. Fear had already taken root, and some people lashed out, accusing others of causing the disturbances or hiding secrets. The Vale observed all of this with growing fascination. Humans were proving to be far more complex than they'd anticipated. When threatened, they showed flashes of bravery and ingenuity, but also paranoia and aggression. The aliens wondered if humanity's reputation as apex predators stemmed not just from their ability to fight, but from their unpredictability under pressure. Whatever the answer, the Vale were determined to find out, even if it meant pushing Pine Ridge to its breaking point. The tension in Pine Ridge reached a boiling point. Strange events continued to plague the town, and paranoia spread like wildfire. People argued over what was causing the disturbances. Some blamed wild animals, others thought it was government experiments, and a few even whispered about ghosts or curses. But Ryan and Claire knew better. They had seen the flickering shape in the forest, the glowing eyes that didn't belong to any earthly creature. Whatever was out there wasn't natural, and they were determined to expose it. One morning, Claire decided to set up a new camera near the edge of the woods where she'd last spotted the distortion. This time, she rigged it with motion sensors and infrared technology, hoping to capture clearer evidence. As she worked, Ryan stood guard, scanning the trees with his rifle slung over his shoulder. He still wasn't sure if bullets would do anything against whatever they were dealing with, but having the weapon made him feel less powerless. Hours later, when Claire reviewed the footage, her heart skipped a beat. The camera had captured something extraordinary, a shimmering, translucent form gliding silently through the forest. It looked vaguely humanoid, with elongated limbs and faintly glowing patterns shifting across its surface. Most startling of all, it seemed to pause for a moment, as if aware it was being watched. Then it vanished, leaving no trace behind. "This is it," Claire said breathlessly, showing the footage to Ryan. "This proves we're not imagining things." Ryan frowned, studying the image carefully. "It's not just proof. It's our first real look at them," he replied. "But why are they here? And why now?" Word of the discovery spread quickly through Pine Ridge. Some residents wanted to confront the intruders directly, while others suggested fleeing before things got worse. Arguments broke out at the diner, in the streets, and even in front of the general store. Tempers flared, and old grudges resurfaced. The Vale watched it all unfold, fascinated by how fear turned humans against each other so easily. Realizing the situation was spiraling out of control, Ryan and Claire called a meeting at the community center. Dozens of people showed up, their faces tense and voices raised. "We can't keep fighting among ourselves," Claire pleaded. "Whatever's out there, it's playing us. If we don't stick together, we'll lose everything." Her words struck a chord with some, but not everyone agreed. One man, a burly rancher named Jack, stepped forward. "You two have been sneaking around the woods for days," he accused. "How do we know you're not part of this? Maybe you brought it here." Ryan clenched his fists, ready to argue, but Claire intervened calmly. "If we wanted to hurt anyone, don't you think we'd have done it already?" she asked. "We're trying to help, but if you want to run or fight on your own, go ahead. Just don't blame us when things go wrong." The room fell silent after that. Slowly, a few people nodded in agreement, willing to give Ryan and Claire a chance. Others remained skeptical, but promised to stay quiet. For now. That night, Ryan and Claire returned to the forest, determined to get answers. They'd brought flashlights, tools, and a small recorder to document everything. As they approached the area where the camera had captured the alien figure, they felt an overwhelming sense of unease. The air was colder, and the silence was deafening. Then, without warning, the Vale revealed themselves. 3 figures materialized out of thin air, their forms flickering like heat waves. Their large black eyes locked onto Ryan and Claire, and a voice echoed in their minds, not spoken aloud, but felt deep within their thoughts. "You seek to understand us," the voice said. "Why do you resist our presence?" Ryan instinctively raised his rifle, though his hands trembled slightly. "Who are you?" he demanded. "What do you want from us?" Claire stepped forward cautiously, her voice steady despite her fear. "We're not afraid of you," she said firmly. "But you need to leave us alone. You've caused enough trouble already." The Vale tilted their heads, studying the pair curiously. "Humans are unpredictable," one of them replied. "Violent yet compassionate, dangerous yet resilient. We wish to learn why your kind is feared across the stars." Ryan lowered his rifle slightly, stunned by the admission. "So you've been testing us, messing with our town just to see how we react." The aliens didn't deny it. Instead, they explained that humanity's reputation intrigued them. They had come to observe, to test, and ultimately to decide whether humans posed a threat to the galaxy, or perhaps held potential for something greater. Claire crossed her arms, glaring at the shimmering figures. "Well, you've seen what happens when you push us too far," she said. "Now it's your turn to listen. Leave us alone, or we'll make sure you regret staying." For the first time, the Veil hesitated. They hadn't expected such defiance or such unity from their subjects. As they faded back into invisibility, Ryan and Claire exchanged a glance. They didn't know what would happen next, but one thing was clear: humanity wasn't going down without a fight. The encounter with the Veil left Ryan and Claire shaken but resolute. They knew they couldn't rely on weapons or brute force to deal with the aliens. These beings were far too advanced for that. Instead, they decided to use their strengths: ingenuity, teamwork, and an intimate knowledge of the forest. If the Veil wanted to test humanity, then humanity would show them exactly what it was capable of. Ryan came up with a plan. He suggested setting traps in the woods, using simple tools and materials to create decoys and distractions. "We can't fight them head-on," he explained to Claire, "but we can outsmart them. Make them think twice about messing with us." Claire agreed, adding her expertise in animal behavior to the mix. Together, they designed a series of traps that mimicked the movements of large predators, complete with motion-activated lights and sound recordings of growls and roars. They worked tirelessly through the night, rigging tripwires, hiding cameras, and positioning makeshift decoys made from old tarps and wooden frames. The goal wasn't to harm the Veil, but to corner them, to force a confrontation on human terms. By dawn, the forest was ready, dotted with hidden snares and devices designed to confuse and disorient the aliens. Meanwhile, tensions in Pine Ridge continued to rise. Some residents accused Ryan and Claire of making things worse, while others praised their efforts to protect the town. Jack, the rancher who had doubted them earlier, reluctantly admitted he might have been wrong. "If you two are willing to risk your necks for this place, I guess I can help too," he muttered, offering his truck to haul supplies. Slowly, the community began to unite, driven by a shared desire to defend their home. The victory in the forest gave Pine Ridge a temporary sense of relief, but Ryan and Claire knew better than to think it was over. The Veil had retreated, but they hadn't left Earth entirely. Their curiosity about humanity remained, and their pride had been wounded. Ryan and Claire understood that the aliens would return, perhaps with more caution, perhaps with new tactics, but they would definitely come back. Claire suggested taking the fight to the Veil, instead of waiting for them to strike again. "We need to show them we're not just defending ourselves," she said. "We need to prove we're not afraid of them." Ryan agreed, though he wasn't sure how to approach such a bold move. They decided to gather the townspeople once more, explaining their plan and asking for help. To their surprise, nearly everyone volunteered. Even Jack, who had initially doubted them, stepped up, saying, "If those things come back, I want to be ready." Together, they built a makeshift communication device using old radios, car batteries, and spare parts from Ryan's garage. Claire worked on the design, while others helped assemble it. The idea was simple: broadcast a message to the Veil, inviting them to meet face to face. If the aliens wanted to understand humanity, then humanity would give them a chance to talk, not fight. When the device was ready, Ryan and Claire brought it deep into the forest, setting it up near the spot where they'd trapped the Veil. Using a loudspeaker rigged to the machine, they recorded a message. "We don't want trouble," Ryan's voice boomed through the woods. "But if you keep testing us, you'll see why humans are dangerous. Come meet us tomorrow at sunrise. Let's talk before things get worse." The next morning, the entire town gathered at the edge of the forest, armed with tools, flashlights, and whatever else they could carry. Some were nervous, others angry, but all were united by a shared determination to protect their home. As the sun rose, casting golden light over the trees, the air shimmered and the Veil appeared. There were more of them this time, their forms glowing faintly as they hovered silently above the ground. Ryan and Claire stepped forward, leaving the safety of the group. They stood side by side, facing the aliens with calm resolve. "You wanted to learn about us," Claire began, her voice steady. "Here we are. We're not perfect, but we're strong, and we'll do whatever it takes to survive." One of the veil moved closer, its elongated limbs rippling like water. Its telepathic voice echoed in their minds. "Your actions confuse us. You resist, yet you extend an invitation. Why?" "Because we're not just fighters," Ryan answered. "We can reason too. But if you push us too far, we won't hesitate to fight back. Leave us alone, or deal with the consequences." The veil seemed to consider this, their glowing patterns shifting slowly. After a long pause, one of them spoke again. "Humans are unpredictable, violent yet cooperative, dangerous yet compassionate. Your kind is fascinating." Claire took another step forward. "And your kind is terrifying. But we're willing to listen, if you are." The aliens exchanged silent signals, their forms flickering faintly. Finally, they nodded. "We will withdraw for now. But know this, humanity intrigues us. Perhaps there is more to learn from you than we first believed." With that, the veil turned and glided away, their forms dissolving into the air until they vanished completely. The townspeople erupted into cheers, hugging each other and celebrating their unlikely triumph. Ryan and Claire exchanged a glance, both knowing the victory was fragile but meaningful. The veil's departure marked the end of an ordeal that had tested Pine Ridge in ways no one could have imagined. Life slowly returned to normal, but the town was forever changed. People who had once kept to themselves now greeted each other warmly, bound together by the shared experience of facing something beyond their understanding. Ryan and Claire became local heroes, though neither sought recognition. They simply went back to their routines, Ryan fixing cars at the garage, and Claire tracking wildlife in the forest. But both carried a newfound sense of purpose. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Ryan sat on his porch with Max lying at his feet. The dog seemed more relaxed now, no longer growling at shadows or barking at nothing. Ryan sipped a cup of coffee, staring out at the quiet woods. He thought about everything that had happened, the strange encounters, the fear, the unity, and realized how fragile peace truly was. Humanity's strength lay not just in its ability to fight, but in its capacity to protect what mattered most. Claire, meanwhile, spent her days reflecting on the aliens' words. Fascinating, they had called humanity. She couldn't help but wonder what the veil would do next. Would they share their findings with others of their kind? Would they return someday, either as friends or foes? The questions lingered in her mind, unanswered but not unwelcome. For all the chaos the veil had caused, their presence had forced Pine Ridge to confront its own fears, and emerge stronger for it. A few weeks later, Claire noticed something unusual during her fieldwork. One of her cameras captured faint traces of movement in the forest, shimmering distortions that flickered briefly before disappearing. At first, she worried the veil might still be watching, but upon closer inspection, she realized the images were different this time. These weren't the same advanced beings. Instead, they resembled animal tracks partially obscured by heat waves. It was as if nature itself was healing, reclaiming the balance disrupted by the alien visitors. Ryan joined her one afternoon to check the footage. Together, they hiked deep into the woods, retracing the path where they'd first encountered the veil. As they walked, Claire pointed out signs of recovery. Fresh claw marks on trees left by bears, wolf prints in the mud, and birdsong returning to the air. "It's like the forest is breathing again," she said softly. Ryan nodded, feeling the same sense of renewal around them. When they reached the clearing where the final confrontation had taken place, they found something unexpected. In the center of the space stood a single object, a smooth metallic sphere about the size of a basketball. It pulsed faintly with soft, multicolored lights, almost like a heartbeat. Cautiously, Claire knelt beside it, examining the artifact closely. There were no markings, no buttons, just a quiet hum emanating from within. "It's from them," Ryan said, his voice low. "A parting gift, or maybe a warning." Claire shook her head. I don't think so. Look. She gestured to the ground beneath the sphere, where tiny shoots of green grass were beginning to sprout. Somehow, the object seemed to harmonize with the environment rather than disrupt it. Maybe it's a message, she suggested, a reminder that we're connected to each other, to the Earth, and even to the stars. They left the sphere where it lay, deciding not to interfere. Whatever the veil intended, it wasn't meant to harm, not this time. As they made their way back to town, Ryan glanced up at the sky. The stars twinkled brightly, endless, and mysterious. He felt a pang of curiosity mixed with gratitude. Humanity might never fully understand the universe, but that didn't mean it couldn't find its place within it. Back in Pine Ridge, life continued as usual. Children played in the park, neighbors chatted over fences, and the diner buzzed with laughter and conversation. But every now and then, someone would pause, look up at the night sky, and remember the events that had brought them together. The veil were gone, but their impact remained, a testament to humanity's resilience, adaptability, and unyielding spirit. For Ryan and Claire, the experience became a turning point. They knew the world was vast and full of mysteries, some beautiful, others terrifying. Yet, they also knew that humans were capable of facing those mysteries head-on, armed with courage, ingenuity, and hope. And perhaps, in the eyes of the Veil, or any other species watching from afar, that was what truly made humanity extraordinary.